Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today I'm here with a tag video, and it has been a while since I was actually tagged to do a tag, so kind of excited about this one. Today I'm going to be doing the Future Classics tag, and I was tagged by the lovely Sabrina from Unmanaged Mischief, and yes, I just realized that I said tag way too many times there. I will link Sabrina's video down in the description box below, along with the original tag video, so feel free to check those out. I would highly suggest that you check out Sabrina's at least, because she gives some really well thought out answers. I can promise you her answers are way more thought out than mine are going to be right now. Anyways, there are 5 questions to this tag, so let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I feel like a lot of you probably saw this coming, but of course I'm going to pick The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain as a classic that I think will still be relevant in the future. On kind of a surface level, I think this will be a relevant book and a book that people will still turn to just as a fun adventure story and a fun coming of age story. And when it comes to a more thematic level, I do think that this book will unfortunately still be relevant in the future. If where we're at today socially is any indication. For example, some of the things this book deals with are slavery, obviously, race relations, which I unfortunately do think will still be a topic of much discussion in the future. There's also domestic abuse in here. There's a look at kind of class relations, and because America tends to have a resistance to talk about the difficult things, I honestly think this will still be frighteningly relevant in the future. Full disclosure, for some of these questions I have cheated a bit and picked 2 different books because I thought they were both relevant. So for this question, I want to start off and say that I think this book, The Buddha in the Attic by Julie Otsuka, will definitely be a classic in the future. Now, I guess you could say that this hasn't flown completely under the radar because it did win the PEN/Faulkner Award for Fiction, so it has been on the prize circuit, I guess you could say, and I know that, you know, it came very highly recommended to me, but I do think that this will just be a really enduring classic of a period of American history that we, again, don't like to talk about. Is that going to be the theme of this video? This is, of course, the tale of Japanese immigrants in early 20th century America, and I do think it's kind of a timeless immigrant's tale. I think even though it's told through the lens of Japanese immigrants, I think you can really apply it to any immigrant group in the country, and I feel like that's going to continue to be relevant as we continue to globalize. I also think that this provides a really striking look at Japanese internment during World War II, which, again, not something we like to talk about, but something that we should remember and we should hold on to. And I do think that this is going to be one of those books that people turn to spark discussion on that topic. And then the other book I picked for this question is The Nakano Thrift Shop by Hiromi Kawakami. And you have to forgive me and let me try and explain my reasoning behind this one. Obviously, I can't speak to the Japanese literary canon because I just don't know enough about it, but I do think that this is going to be one of those books, one of those translated works that gets recommended to people who like things like Murakami, who like things like Natsume Soseki, people who like classic Japanese literature or modern classic Japanese literature and are just looking for something that really encapsulates that really quiet feel. I think this is going to be one of those books that gets thrust into people's hands. The book tells the story of the Nakano Thrift Shop, which is obviously a thrift shop staffed by a rather colorful cast of characters who, although they are quirky, are also so very ordinary. And I think what's going to be really enduring about this book is that it examines the ordinary in a very extraordinary way. I always really struggle to describe the feeling that books like this give me, but it's basically, okay, I'm gonna use a Studio Ghibli reference. If you've ever seen Kiki's Delivery Service, at the beginning of the film, she's laying out on this grassy hill and the grass is swaying around her and there's no soundtrack going on. You can just hear this like little, very, very soft radio noise playing because she's listening to the radio, and you're getting all this really lovely ambient noise. And it's so soothing, and that's the kind of feeling that this book gives to me. I have 2 books for this question again, because I'm a rebel like that, and I think I want to start off with The Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri. Now, this won the Pulitzer Prize, and honestly, I don't really follow the Pulitzer, but it just so happens that a lot of the Pulitzer winners are books that I actually quite enjoy. You know, I don't pick them up for that reason, but generally speaking, if it's won a Pulitzer, it's something that I tend to like. This is a short story collection featuring a wide selection of Bengali American families. And what I think it does so very well is that it really mines the specificity of their experiences, so much so that their experiences apply more generally, if that makes sense. Basically, at first glance, you could say that this is a collection of short stories looking at minority families. This is a collection of short stories looking at the immigrant experience. But at the heart of each story, it's just a family going through normal family things, or it's just a couple going through normal family things. So I think this is going to be an enduring classic because it works on both levels, both the minority and the more general. It's also a book that I thoroughly love, and although it's the only one of Jhumpa Lahiri's books that I have fully completed, I have a feeling that even as I continue to read her stuff, this is going to remain my everlasting favorite. The other book I have here is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, which won the Booker Prize, which is now known as the Man Booker Prize. Now, I feel like actually these are the two authors that I think are going to be kind of the classic authors of my generation, Lahiri and Ishiguro. The Man Booker Prize is actually the one prize that I tend to follow most closely, and even then I don't follow super closely. This year in particular, I've kind of not been paying attention at all, but generally speaking, if I'm going to pay attention to one prize, it's going to be the Man Booker. Kazuo Ishiguro is an author I really enjoy, and he also gives me those kind of like indie ambient noise vibes, for lack of a better way to describe that, and this is probably his most well-known work. The Remains of the Day is set post-World War II, and it follows a butler named Stevens who is kind of coming to terms with the fact that not only is his profession a dying one, but also coming to terms with the fact that his lord, the man he served loyally for basically his whole career, wasn't necessarily the great man that he always believed him to be. This is honestly one of the books that has been recommended to me most frequently, and I think it's going to be an enduring classic simply because people seem to love it quite a bit. It also talks a lot about, you know, what happens when your kind of golden era is done. What do you do with the second phase of your life? Is there a second phase of your life? What do you do with the remains of your day? I'm going to admit this was the most difficult question of all of these for me to answer, but the book I ended up going with was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Now, I feel like this was the slightly less obvious answer because I also have Atonement by Ian McEwan on my shelves. I also have some Jeffrey Eugenides, and I feel like both of those are definitely going to be considered classics if they're not already. However, I felt like I wanted to pick this one because this is a book that for me ranks up there in like the booktube legends category, as in I've heard a lot about this book and it's all been praise. Like, I haven't actually seen a single negative review of this. Honestly, the only thing I know about this book is that it is set at a university and that it is a bit of a mystery, but it's a very literary mystery at that. And I just, the feeling that I get when I hear people talk about this book makes me think that it's going to be a classic. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like Donna Tartt in general is one of those authors that kind of is at mythic levels, at least in my corner of booktube. Okay, so if you are a long-time subscriber, you probably can guess what I'm going to show you here, and that is Inkheart by Cornelia Funk. Now, this is the first book in a middle grade trilogy. This is book 1, and then we have Ink Spell and then Ink Death. Now, I personally think you can actually read this as a standalone if you want to. I don't think the ending is so cliffhangery that you need to carry on to the second book, but if you want to see the world expanded, obviously the next two are okay. I think I enjoy this one the most. Inkheart tells the story of a young girl named Maggie who lives with her bookbinding father named Mo. And what's so special about Maggie and Mo is that they have this mystical, magical ability to read things and people out of the books that they love. So for example, if Maggie was reading Peter Pan out loud, maybe Tinkerbell might actually appear in her bedroom and fly around the ceiling, and doesn't that sound great? Well, no, actually, because when you read something out of the book, something has to go into it to replace it. And you can't really control what you bring out of the book. So Inkheart tells the story of Maggie discovering the world of characters that her father has accidentally brought out of books, and discovering that some of those characters are actually quite evil and are wreaking real havoc on the real world. I immediately knew that this was a book that I wanted to hold on to and pass on to future generations because it is a true book for book lovers, and if you are a kid especially who loves fairy tales and adventure stories, this is like the best thing ever because it's all of that put in one book and then explored by a kid not so dissimilar from yourself. So those are my answers to the Future Classics book tag. And I know this tag has been around since like February, but I haven't really seen a ton of people do it, so I'm gonna tag some people anyways, and if you have already done it, obviously you don't have to redo it. I'm gonna go ahead and tag Bree from Bree Hill, Vanessa from Splits Reads, and Doris from Aldi Books, and of course if you haven't done it and you would like to do so as well, I will have all of the questions in the description box below, so you can do that if you so please. But other than that, that is all I have for today, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye!